In early 2022, as Russian tanks crossed into Ukraine, another front opened quietly, almost invisibly. Not on land, not in the air, but in the global financial system. Within days, Western governments froze Russian state assets held in their jurisdictions. Central bank reserves, government bonds, sovereign cash. The United Kingdom froze approximately £25 billion worth of Russian state assets. The European Union froze closer to €200 billion. At the time, this was framed as a temporary reversible measure, a way to apply pressure without crossing into outright confiscation. But history rarely stops where policymakers intend. Three years later, the European Union is openly debating whether those frozen Russian assets should be used, not merely held, to finance Ukraine's war effort. This is not a technical adjustment, it is a profound shift. Under international financial norms, sovereign reserves are considered sacrosanct. They are the foundation of trust in the global monetary system. If reserves can be repurposed by political decision, then every country, including Britain, must ask whether its own assets are safe in future conflicts. Russia's response has been calm, legalistic, and deeply strategic. It has not seized embassies. It has not defaulted on Western debt. Instead, it has turned its attention to foreign companies still operating inside Russia. By the end of 2024, roughly 62% of Western companies with significant Russian exposure had exited the country. This was not driven by morality alone. It was driven by risk. Companies with heavy physical assets, factories, warehouses, infrastructure, recognized that once sovereign property could be frozen, private property had lost its ultimate protection. Ikea closed every store, sold factories, and wrote off billions. BP exited its stake in Rosneft at a loss exceeding $25 billion. Shell withdrew from joint ventures, writing down billions more. Their internal reasoning, later disclosed to investors, was strikingly consistent. Exit early, even at a loss. Accept punitive terms, or risk losing everything without compensation. Some companies left quickly, others stayed. Despite the exodus, a number of UK companies or UK-linked entities continued operating in Russia, often because exits were complex, politically sensitive, or commercially painful. These companies are now exposed to retaliation. Let's name them. AstraZeneca. The company has repeatedly stated that its Russian presence is humanitarian in nature. Even so, it maintains manufacturing facilities and assets estimated at around £1 billion. Healthcare has been protected, so far. But Russian law does not permanently exempt pharmaceuticals from state intervention. Reckitt Benckiser, owner of brands like Dettol and Nurofen. Russian asset exposure estimated at £270 million. Consumer goods are profitable, visible, and politically easy to target. Imperial Energy, a UK-based oil and gas company with approximately £260 million in Russian assets. Energy assets fall under Russia's definition of strategic industries, meaning the state already has broad legal powers. Evraz plc, perhaps the most important and least discussed case. Evraz is UK-registered, listed in London, and deeply embedded in Russian steel, mining, and rail infrastructure. Before sanctions, it generated over $13 billion in annual revenue, largely from Russia. Its London listing has been suspended. Its valuation is opaque, but its exposure is unquestionably measured in billions. Then there is Raven Russia, a case that should concern every British investor. Raven Property Group, a UK-listed real estate firm, owned one of the largest portfolios of logistics warehouses in Russia. In 2022, Raven attempted to exit responsibly. It arranged a management buyout, transferring ownership to local managers in compliance with sanctions and Russian law. On paper, it did everything right. But in 2024, Russian authorities challenged the transaction, citing national interest and legal irregularities. The assets were effectively seized. This was not chaos, it was precedent. Raven demonstrated something crucial. Even companies that try to leave cleanly are not guaranteed protection once relations deteriorate. Let's talk numbers. Using conservative, publicly available data only, direct British corporate assets still at risk, approximately £3 billion. But that figure excludes pension fund exposure, indirect shareholdings, legal claims and receivables, Ivras's full industrial base. Since 2022, British companies have already absorbed more than £55 billion in losses related to Russia. This is not theoretical. These losses affect UK pension holders, institutional investors, share prices, jobs and tax revenues. Responsibility for this strategy lies primarily with the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Foreign Secretary and senior officials at HM Treasury. Public statements from these figures emphasize three themes. First, that frozen assets remain frozen, not confiscated. Second, that Britain respects international law. Third, that the UK stands firmly with Ukraine. And yet, the UK has not ruled out supporting the EU's proposal to use frozen assets. This ambiguity matters, because from Moscow's perspective, use and seizure are indistinguishable. Britain now faces three broad choices. 1. Maintain the freeze, refuse confiscation, and preserve legal norms, even if this frustrates allies. 2. Support the EU's plan, accept retaliation, and absorb further corporate losses. Or 3. The most uncomfortable option. Consider whether unfreezing Britain's £25 billion might reduce tensions and protect far larger private assets. This is not about sympathy, it is about risk management. Was it wise to risk tens of billions in private British losses, to hold £25 billion in frozen state assets that may never be legally usable? Did deterrence quietly become escalation? Or was escalation chosen without fully counting the cost? This has been British Heritage Prism. If you found this analysis valuable, please subscribe to the channel. We welcome your comments, insights, and suggestions. Thoughtful discussion matters now more than ever. Thank you for watching. And until next time, good evening.